Now, this is a turn up for the books. The Teamsters Union, which has endorsed every Democrat candidate, well, for at least a couple of decades now, has decided not to endorse Kamala Harris. They won't be endorsing anyone this year because their members are backing Trump. Indeed, 3 in 5 of the members are supporting Trump. Here's how Donald Trump reacted to the announcement.
Democrats automatically have the Teamsters. They took a vote, and I guess I was at 60% or more, and that's a great honor. I mean, it's really, I've had a lot of Teamsters work for me, a lot of the concrete trucks. They built all these buildings that you see in New York City, the Teamsters, exclusively Teamsters, I have to say, they've done a great job. But the vote of the Teamsters themselves was very high for me, and the leadership, Sean O'Brien and the group, who are great people, they said we can't endorse the Democrats. So I think this is the first time in many decades that they haven't endorsed Democrats.
Kosha, last time around, 1 in 3 of the Teamsters voted for Trump over Biden. To see that figure now go to 3 in 5, it's quite a dramatic improvement for him. Why do you think is behind that?
Huge. I think it's a continuation of what Trump put his finger on when he first ran in 2015, 2016, about the forgotten man and woman and the working class, which the membership of these unions and these Teamsters represent. And so he already, I think, got more support from them than the traditional Republican candidates that we just spoke about. And with each election, he's just further solidified that, and that contrast between the two parties and that reshaping that we just discussed is becoming so abundantly clear to everybody that I think the working class, the Blue Dog Democrats, the Reagan Democrats, all those guys are coming over to the side, and the Democrat Party is losing them and just really isn't any longer the party of the working class as it used to be.
It isn't, but it is the party of the affluent, the highly educated. There has been this switch. And is that going to be enough? Because you're seeing this current tactic where they're not being very forthcoming with policy ideas. They're doing all sorts of backflips, but it seems to be working for them so far. That honeymoon period that began with Harris is still underway.
The fact that this election is so close and will continue to be so close despite that is so revealing and so shocking, even though we shouldn't be shocked at this point, that you can run. It really will be a case where the candidate could be switched out 60 days before the election. You run, you don't do any media or any policy prescriptions are never described, and still, even if she loses, it's going to be by a razor-thin margin, which is quite telling.
Absolutely. And part of the reason for that is the overwhelmingly positive media she's receiving and the overwhelmingly negative media Trump is receiving. Conservative watchdog group Media Research Centre has found that despite a second attempt on Donald Trump's life, the bulk of the mainstream media in the US has not lowered the temperature in its anti-Trump coverage. In the first 72 hours after the second assassination attempt, 95% of the coverage on ABC, CBS, NBC was negative for Trump. That's quite remarkable, Kosha, because this is such an astonishing event to occur, to have an attempt on a candidate's life, a former president, to have it happen twice in 2 months, and yet still no sympathy, maybe we should stop calling him a threat to democracy. None of that. It's just doubling down.
So shameful. The last time this happened was 40 years ago for Ronald Reagan. There's not been an attempt. So it's a big deal to have not 1 but 2 attempts, as you said, in 5 weeks. And it really is shameful that they haven't done that. And I think, the reason is when you demonize somebody so much as they have, the logical endpoint of that is you're going to normalize any and every critique and act of opposition against that person, including an attempted assassination and taking their life. So it started with the rhetoric, being investigated, being impeached, the lawfare being indicted, and then this is just the natural progression of that, where it's now normalized to either brush things under the rug that could be helpful to Trump, or just continue to put it in the context that, well, if somebody really is the American incarnation of Hitler, then I guess they deserve this. That's the subtext.
And you just hate to think what would happen to the country if an assassination attempt is successful. And he has been so astonishingly lucky both these times. The first time, that last millisecond shift in his head to look at a graph, that saved his life. And this time around, to have a Secret Service agent who in a golf course with all the trees and bushes, managed to spot the rifle.
Poking through. It's
Almost
unbelievable.
miraculous, really.
And that issue of the perimeter not being properly scanned and safeguarded is obviously picking up heat, but how many times can someone be lucky? So he should be getting presidential level security right now, or having his own private security.
I mean, there's no person in the country right now, and there's no one in America who's in greater danger than Donald Trump. They've painted him as a New Age Hitler, a threat to democracy for 8 years now, and there's enough nutbags out there who are got it into their heads that they're going to save the Republic from Trump. Kosha Gator, thank you so much for your time this evening.
Pleasure.